Everyone, thank you for joining us for chapter one for Principles of Management class that meets on Mondays at 1:20 p.m. This is chapter one, the exceptional manager, what you do and how you do it. As a reminder, I'm recording this lecture for you because I am out on medical leave of absence for the first week of the fall semester 2020, and Professor Tendai Nyakarimwa will be able to help you with any general questions regarding the course logistics. So chapter one is really a brief introduction of what management is and what managers do. So as you can see here, management is an art. It is defined within an organization where people work together to achieve some purpose and goal together. And there are many types of organizations that managers need to lead. So management is the pursuit of organizational goals efficiently and effectively. And it's really important to understand the difference between being efficient and being effective. Being efficient means that you use the resources, the people, the money, any raw materials wisely and cost effectively. You can be one of the smartest people in the planet, let's say Elon Musk, and you can create a rocket ship that can go from here to Mars or from here to the moon. But if the cost of that rocket ship is not efficient, no one is going to be able to afford it. And then it would be a waste of money, a waste of time. So this is why it is important to be efficient. So the cost of the product or the services that you are producing are affordable and the company is able to make any profits. To be effective as a manager is to achieve the results, to make the right decisions and to carry them so you achieve your organizational goals. Okay, so I can be a super nice manager. I can be, my customers could love me. And I had this situation when I used to work in banking where I had a lot of managers who really were very nice. Customers loved them. And every time that a customer would come and ask for a fee rebate, I overdraw my account, I'm going through some difficulties, financial difficulties, the manager will be nice and they will, give them the fee rebates. And those customers love it. And every time we get a survey about customer service, that manager would get a perfect score, 10 out of 10. But the problem is those decisions are the right decisions because at the end of the day, you work for an organization that needs to make profits. And your decisions have to be balanced because you still want to make profits. If you are giving away every single fee to every single customer, chances are your banking center, in this example, for example, is not profitable and you are producing more losses than profits. So this is why it is important to keep that balance in mind, being efficient and being effective. As a manager, you have to work with people. You need to lead them. There are four major functions of a manager: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. And in this class, we're going to be looking closely to each one of these functions and explaining what does it mean. So why is it important to study management? You need to understand how to deal with organizations from the outside, how you can relate to your supervisor. You need to understand how to interact with coworkers and how to manage yourself in the workplace. So it's really giving you a 360-degree approach and understanding of the organization. To practice management, you and your employees can experience a sense of accomplishment if you understand how to practice management. You can stretch your abilities, magnify your range, you can build a catalog of successful products and services. You can become a mentor and help others. A lot of people become managers without studying management, and there are certain things that come naturally to you. There are things that you come with time, with experience, and you learn from mistakes. Having been a manager myself, I've learned from many mistakes, and I spend most of my classes sharing those mistakes with my students. But there are some things that you could learn from a class that you can try to apply in the workplace. So true, you can learn from your experiences, but hopefully this class will give you some tips and some information that will be helping you to become a successful manager. So the management process starts with planning. You have to make sure you have goals. Remember, if you fail to plan, that means you plan to fail. So you always have to make sure you have goals set for yourself. You have to organize the task. People need to know what they need to do. I always ask the question in class, can you manage an organization without a manager? So if you are all employees, no one is the boss, will that organization be successful? And chances are is probably not, because you need someone who can arrange the tasks who can arrange the schedule, make sure that the workflow is effective and efficient. And typically, that's a manager who needs to do that. A manager need to lead, to motivate, to direct. They need to be a role model. They need to influence people. They need to inspire them to achieve the organization goal. And finally, the manager need to be controlling. Monitoring the performance of employees is really important. I used to work at Citizens Bank. I worked there for 5 years. And while I was working there was this big scandal that emerged about bankers who were opening fake accounts opened by their family members or their friends, and that was going on for a while. And the reason why it was going on, because the managers were not effective in controlling and monitoring the performance of their employees. If someone comes to you and says, I made this much number of sales, whether you're selling cars or you're selling accounts, you want to double check the performance. How did you sell them? Where is the paperwork? Were you able to convince so many customers to open these accounts? But there needs to be a controlling mechanism so you can make sure that if there is anything unethical, that it needs to be addressed. There are different levels of managers. So we have managers who are at the top, and we talk about the CEO, CFO, COO. We have the managers who are in the middle, first-line managers, and then we have the non-managerial employees. So the top managers, they're the ones who make the long-term decisions, okay? So you have Jeff Bezos, he comes and says, okay, in the next 5 years, Amazon wants to be in every single country in the world. That is a long-term decision. It will take some time, a lot of planning for Amazon to be everywhere. Right now, Amazon is in every continent, I have no doubt. Not sure if it's in every country in the world, but that could be a goal, right? You want Amazon to be everywhere. Now, Jeff Bezos comes up with that vision. It is up to the middle managers to implement the policies and plans of the top manager. Okay, they're the ones who are going to have to look at every single country where Amazon is not currently available. How are they going to be able to enter the market? What strategies they have to put in place? They have to coordinate the activities to make sure if they have to open any fulfillment centers in those countries, they have to hire first-line managers. That's the work of the middle managers. Then you have the line managers. You have a manager of a fulfillment center, in this case of Amazon. That manager of that center is responsible for day-to-day operations of the center, from scheduling employees, hiring them, training them, from firing them, for making sure everyone has a schedule, everyone has training. All of that is the responsibility of a first-line manager. Sometimes we have team leaders, and those are responsible to facilitate team activities so they can achieve the results that the organization is looking for. We have different types of managers. So we have managers who are general managers, and we have managers who are functional managers. A functional manager is typically just responsible for one activity in the organization. For example, a director of finance, vice president of production. A general manager is typically responsible for several organizational activities. It could be someone like an executive vice president, an executive director, or for a nonprofit. And it really depends on the size of the organization. In some organizations, they need to have very specialized functional managers. Typically, in smaller organizations, they may have one manager who manages the whole organization. There are different types of organization. We have the for-profit ones. Typically, that's your everyday organization, Google, Apple, GM, all of those organizations that offer products and services for profits. Nonprofit organizations, this is your Red Cross, Salvation Army, a community college is a nonprofit organization, any social welfare agencies, UNICEF, all of those are nonprofit organizations. And we have the mutual benefit organization. They aid their members to advance their interest. For example, political parties, right now, Republicans, Democrats. We have farm co-ops, the labor unions, trade associations, clubs. We call those mutual benefit organizations. Managerial roles are different. Mainsberg was a Canadian expert, and he developed this framework or this mindset where he decided that the manager has 10 roles, and then he put those roles into 3 different categories. The first category is the interpersonal roles, where where people interact, where managers interact with people inside and outside the work units. And under the interpersonal roles, The managers are looked at as leaders, as figurehead, as role model. They're the liaison between the organization and the outside world, and between people who work in the same organization. The second type of role is what we call informational roles. So the manager is responsible to disseminate the organization, to monitor, to communicate the information to employees, and is also being the spokesperson of the employees. The final role we have is what we call the decisional roles. And in decisional roles, the manager receives information and has to make those decisions to solve the problems. So if there are any conflicts, they have to resolve the conflicts, called a disturbance handler. They have to take risks. A manager needs to be an entrepreneur. They have to decide how to allocate the resources. There is a limited amount of money, and you have to be able to use that money wiser. One of my managers used to tell me, Wasal, you have to do more with less. So the goals would always increase, but the budget will always shrink and decrease. And that's what we call resource allocator. And then negotiator. You need to negotiate, whether you are negotiating with the suppliers, negotiating with the customers, even negotiating with employees. But that is typically a skill that managers need to have. So this is the Mindsberg roles. So in order for managers to be successful, they must rely more on verbal than on written communication. And as you know, verbal communication is really important. Unfortunately, with the corona pandemic, a lot of that verbal communication is lost. Because having a phone conversation or even in a video conference, you're not able to pick up on cues that you can see when you have in-person meetings with employees and coworkers. Manager works long hours at an intense space. Manager job can be very stressful, depending on the responsibilities that a manager had. I used to have to travel so much between my banking locations, and just the stress of traveling. There are always issues coming up, and you always have to be on call. So it is a stressful job. And manager's work is characterized by fragmentation, brevity, and variety. It really depends on what area of management you have. And some jobs, depending on the field, can be very fragmented, others may not. So it depends on the field where you are working. Managers need different skills. They need technical skills. For example, if I always go back to banking, I'm hiring a new banker. I need a technical skill. I need to show the banker how to open an account, how to send a wire transfer, how to open a safe deposit box. So those are technical skills that I need to teach and train my employee. Conceptual skills, the ability to think analytically, visualize the organization, understand the different parts of how the different parts work together. In a large bank, I used to work at Bank of America, you have business banking, you have mortgages, you have the credit card, you have the investments part of Bank of America, which is Merrill Lynch. So you have all these different parts that are working together. You need to be able to visualize and figure out how each part is working together to support the whole organization. And then human skills. And believe me, human skills are the most important skills that a manager needs. The ability to work in cooperation with other people to get things done, to be able to motivate, inspire, trust, and communicate with others is very important. The worst thing you can have is a situation where you as a manager are not trusted, not respected. It is a management is not a popular job sometimes because you have to make tough decisions, but you need to be respected by your employees and trusted so you can lead them to be productive. So there are many challenges for being an exceptional manager. And like I said earlier, with the corona pandemic, this is even harder. You can manage because you want to have a competitive advantage, right? So you want to be able to produce goods or services more effectively than the competitors. So that is definitely hard because you want to be responsive to customers. Customers now have changing taste. More and more customers are looking for healthy options, for example, for food. So you want to be able to be responsive to customers. Innovation. You want to be able to deliver better goods or services. I mean, I am amazed at how many flavors Coca-Cola has. I mean, there's Coke Diets and Coke Zero and Coke Lemon and Coke Cherry and Coke this and Coke that. Well, I think last time I checked, there were 28 flavors of Coca-Cola, just to. And the reason why they have 28 flavors of all Coke is because they need to keep innovating. They need to figure out what is it that's going to attract new customers and how the trends are changing. Customers who used to drink Coke back in the 70s are not the same as the customers who are drinking Coke today. Quality, making improvements in quality so that consumers choose your product. You may work really hard to have customers try your product the first time. But once they try it, if it's poor quality, they're never coming back to you. And this is why quality is very important, because you want to keep the loyalty of your customers. And then efficiency, overstaffing and overuse of raw materials can make you less competitive. Okay. So you really want to make sure that you are using the right amount of resources to produce the product that you need. So in 2019, consumers were projected to spend 3.55 trillion online. That's double of 2015. This tells you how technology has changed the marketplace. You're probably hearing in the news that more and more stores are closing. JCPenney filed for bankruptcy. Macy's is closing like about 2,000 stores around the country. It is amazing how technology has shifted many businesses and how they're doing business today, because more and more customers are shopping online. So the brick and mortar, the malls, are not as profitable as they used to be. Managing for diversity, you will have, as a manager, you will have a very diverse workforce. Non-Hispanic whites are projected to decrease from 62% in 2014 to 43% in 2060. So that means that less than 50% of the population would not be white anymore by 2060. In 2030, nearly 1 in 5 US residents is expected to be 65 and older. Very concerning. That means that we have a population that is aging. And in the coming years, there will be a different mix of women, immigrants, and older people in the general population as well as in the workforce. These trends are very important to consider as a manager, as a business, from a workforce, and also from a customer service perspective. Managing for globalization, look at the statements. American firms have been going out into the world in a major way, even as the world has been coming to us. That is true, right? Right now, the world is global. What happens in the United States in like 30 seconds will be known everywhere on the planet. It is interesting to see how we have become closer, even though the distances between countries is far. Ethical standards, very important from a managerial perspective. Bernie Madoff, who confessed to the Ponzi scheme, the one where he literally lied his way into stealing $50 billion from different customers, was sentenced to 150 years in prison. The former Tyco International CEO, Dennis Kozlowski, served prison time for grand larceny, securities fraud, and tax evasion. And if you never heard about the former Tyco CEO, he really spent money on things that were completely not needed. I would strongly encourage you to look him up. So he would use personal expenses and he would charge the company for his personal expenses. For example, he bought an umbrella stand. I don't know how many people need an umbrella stand, but he bought an umbrella stand for like $16,000. That's just a holder for your umbrella. And of course, he built the company for it. He threw a party for his wife in Italy for $1 million, one night for $1 million, and he built the company as a business expense. And he goes on and goes on how much money he was just lavish in how the way he was spending money all around, and he went to prison time for that. And then WorldCom head Bernard Burse is serving 25 years for fraud. WorldCom, again, if you read about their case, they were responsible for at least 25 employee suicide. Employees committed suicide because the managers, instead of laying off employees, they were using all these psychological warfare to convince employees to quit. Because the way the system works there is that if you leave the company on your own voluntarily, the company does not have to pay you any severance. Versus if they fire you or they lay you off, they do. And you know, it's a very sad case. That's probably something we will discuss when we get to the chapter about ethics. And in managing for sustainability, um, in you know, we need to meet the needs of the present without compromising the future. I myself have four kids, and I always think about how future will look for my kids, whether it is my 19-year-old who's in college or my 5-year-old who's going to kindergarten. So, how does the future look from an environment perspective? And many companies are trying to improve the way they produce their products and to address causes of climate change. Managing for happiness and meaningfulness. Um, Being a manager is really a stressful job from my own experience. You have a lot of responsibilities and you have a lot of goals to achieve. If you are able to manage and be happy, it's definitely something that's going to make a big difference. But you have to be doing a job that you love. So identify the activities that you love doing. Find a way to build your natural strengths into it and go out and help someone. Always helping others will give you a sense of satisfaction. So this is the end of this chapter. This is a quick overview of chapter 1. I encourage you to read the chapter, to look at every chapter will have a career readiness portion at the end of the chapter, and it will give you some information so you can look at your career outlook and see how you can help improve your skills as a manager. Thank you, and I'll see you in chapter 2. Bye.